So, what is romance in VR? Well, when most people hear that question, they immediately think of ERP. They imagine avatars standing too close to each other in a private instance, digital bodies mimicking physical intimacy through animation and a sense of closeness. It's something visible, it's something performative, it becomes something that you can point to. But that definition doesn't really feel complete, though, does it? What about the conversations? What about staying up until 3 in the morning in a quiet world, just sitting somewhere, together virtually, but feeling something very real? Two people alone in a private instance, not touching, not role playing, not engaging in anything explicitly physical, just talking. Talking about childhood memories, talking about insecurities, talking about dreams that feel too fragile to share with anyone else. Sharing stories that begin with the sentence, I've never told anyone this before. Would that be less intimate or would it be more? In virtual reality, the body is an avatar. It can be changed and customized and stylized, even exaggerated. But the voice is real. The hesitation in someone's speech is real. The pause before answering a vulnerable question is real. The nervous laugh, the softened tone, the moment of silence that says more than words ever could, those things are real. When you spend hours alone with someone, baring your soul to them, something forms. It doesn't need animations or emotes, and it doesn't require simulated touch. It's built from connection, and that can be very powerful. We tend to reduce the digital romance to physical simulation as if intimacy only counts when it looks physical, as if emotional closeness is somehow safer or less significant because there's no literal body involved. But emotional intimacy has always carried weight, even outside of VR. Think about it this way. If your partner stayed up every night with someone else, one on one in a private world, sharing their deepest thoughts, would that feel harmless? If they laughed softly together until the early hours of morning, if they told each other things they hadn't told anyone else, if they began to depend on each other emotionally, and when confronted, the answer was, oh, hey, we didn't ERP, we just talked. Would that make it okay? There's a kind of loophole logic that exists in virtual spaces. As long as no explicit act occurred, then nothing inappropriate happened. As long as there was no digital physicality, then no boundary was crossed. But relationships are not governed by technicalities, they're governed by trust. And trust can be broken by more than physical acts. It can be broken by exclusivity of vulnerability. It can be broken when someone else becomes the person that you wait for. The person that you confide in first, the person that you save your emotional energy for. In VR, emotional intensity can accelerate quickly. The environment removes many of the barriers that normally slow connection. You can sit beside someone in a simulated rainstorm and speak about your deepest fears within hours of meeting them. That shared space feels intimate and that presence feels immediate. A bond can form much faster than either person expects, and sometimes that bond begins to resemble romance, even if no one calls it that. The question then is not whether late-night conversations are as intimate as ERP. The question is, how do we define intimacy in the first place? Is it physical simulation, or is it emotional exclusivity? Sometimes the most romantic experiences in virtual reality are not physical at all. It's being chosen. It's knowing that someone waits for you to log on. It's hearing the words, I was hoping you would join me tonight. It's realizing that someone else feels more complete when they're with you. Now, that might not look like romance in the traditional sense, but it can feel like it. Virtual reality did not invent emotional relationships. Those existed in real life as well, through text messages, long phone calls, late-night conversations at work. What VR does is give those connections a shared environment, a place to sit, a world to inhabit, a visual and auditory presence that makes the bond harder to dismiss. So, is it okay? Well, I don't know. Every relationship defines its own boundaries. For some, ERP is harmless roleplay, and for others, even emotional vulnerability with someone else feels like betrayal. The critical question is not what activity occurred, but what expectations were set and were they met? Have you ever talked about what counts as intimacy? Have you ever defined what exclusivity means? Or are you relying on the assumption that your partner's definition matches your own? And what are you going to do when you find out that your expectations are different than theirs? Because in VR, romance does not always look like romance. Sometimes it looks like two avatars, sitting quietly, just talking and sharing secrets until the sun comes up. And sometimes that can be the most intimate thing of all. Well, anyway, thanks for joining me. I am Kinetic, and I'll see you next time.